Hello, everybody. Welcome to Watches with Dennis. It's Saturday, so it's time for the usual live stream. I obviously am Dennis, and welcome to the show. So, once again, I still feel like these are a bit of cop outs, but I can't help it because I tend to have more fun with them. So, doing another live stream Q&A. So, hopefully, there will be people in the audience. They'll ask watch questions, not to come to get answers from me. Well, I mean, that's up to you, but I'm not inherently someone full of a bunch of answers. I'm just another enthusiast who got into this hobby a few years ago and has fun with it. But I find the interaction interesting. We can explore ideas, opinions, all that sort of fun stuff in the world of watches. So happy Valentine's Day. And if you love watches, they are probably here. And if you don't like watches at all, you probably are watching a different channel. And I actually do have a little topic that I will kind of launch into to start with here in a moment. But so I did actually get a new watch a few days ago, and it looks a lot like an old watch that I got rid of to get the new watch. So this is the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda PF, but this is actually the rose gold model. Now I've looked for a while at the idea because I don't usually wear very flashy stuff. Like I have a lot of gold watch. Well, I have a few gold watches, but they're all on straps. But I always liked this Tonda when I first saw it, but I wasn't sure I liked the Tonda like I would like wearing it. So I got the steel one, and I enjoyed the steel one quite a bit. I love the bracelet. I love the look. And so in a lot of ways, this is a total cop out watch because it's basically identical, same movement. Same size, 40 millimeters, same thickness, same, I'll put it up close, same black guilloche or gray guilloche dial, exactly same color dial. So it's basically just a more expensive version of the same watch. Now, whether or not it's too flashy, I don't know yet because I'm not used to wearing. I've never had a gold bracelet watch. Now, growing up, my dad had those like stretchy gold bands. They're not real gold, the stretchy ones, like on the side. So I always have associated gold bracelets with watches forever and ever. So to me, it didn't seem too weird. But so I traded my Tonda, my old steel Tonda, and the Breguet. I'd mentioned I was thinking about getting rid of the Breguet. I didn't hate the Breguet. The dial of the Breguet was great. However, the movement of the Breguet is not very interesting to me, and it always felt, I want to say, a little it just that this watch overall didn't sit as well as I want. Now this might not sit as well as I want either, because the one thing that, and I mentioned it in my review on the steel Tonda, is there's no micro adjust. There's just a butterfly clasp style bracelet, and so you cannot micro adjust. Now I guess I'll take it off again. The links, this is not meant to be a review, but I'm just going to mention it. The links are basically the size of half links anyway. However, I have never gotten a perfect fit on either, and I knew that would be a chance on this one, but it's been bothering me a little more, I think, because the bracelet's heavier. But I mean, I have a pinky's worth of space in the or pretty much, depending how swollen my wrist is, into the watch, which is kind of my rule of thumb. If I put an extra half link in, I can easily get the finger in. I can't get two in, so it doesn't rotate, but it flops around. And I used to wear a watch like that years before I was collecting. And I tried it yesterday. I was like, can I go back to just having a really loose watch? The answer is no, I cannot go back. I am too constrained by wanting a tighter watch. So what I actually did as of yesterday is I put the link back in, but now the watch is a little lopsided. I can't have an equal number on both sides because of my wrist size. I took it out of the other side to see if it rests a little bit better with the wrist bone. And so far, yes, it hasn't been leaving like a huge red welt, but we'll have to see. Anyway, I'm rambling because I'm waiting for people to come in for the Q&A. But I'll give it a try, and if not, I'll just trade it out. The prices have been pretty steady on these. They take a huge bath secondhand because everyone is into Nautilus. I still think that's the plural. Nautilus, Royal Oaks. I like Royal Oaks. I've never really seriously thought about trying to get one, mostly because the used prices on all the cool looking ones are, well, no, there's probably a few ones that maybe are less. I need to be cautious. Nautiluses though are just so expensive. So but these things are like not even half new. I think then the retail is ridiculous on Parmigiani in general. So I always recommend I wouldn't even look at gray. Look at used if you're into Parmigiani. But anyway, next time I'm in Texas, I might actually stop by. They have a Parmigiani dealer down there. I might check. I've heard they have like a link and a half link, and I might ask about that. But honestly, I kind of dread to hear what they'll say the price is at the dealer for such a thing. So, but I might ask just in case. But so far today, it's feeling all right. So, all right. I haven't decided I'm going to do a review because honestly, everything about the watch is identical except the bracelet is gold instead of steel. The markers are not rhodium; they're plated. They're gold, and the bezel isn't platinum, it's gold. So everything else about the watch is like the same. And I never do the weight of watches in my reviews. So I'm not sure I would tell you anything new about it. So, but we'll just see how I feel. So let me greet the chat. And then I want to jump into, that was not my discussion topic. My discussion topic is actually this really, I thought, cool thing I heard about. And then I was like, well, I can't really do it. So welcome, Koji. Thank you for the compliment. And thank you for being a 99-cent club member. I like to think that 99 cents helped me with the cash differential I had to do for the trade for the watch. Underachieving, thank you as well for being here. I appreciate it. Al, good to see you. And thank you for being a club member. I appreciate that, of course. And I'm glad you like it. So I've had one person say that they felt it was too blingy. I just like I think the concept was, I didn't know you were into blingy watches. I'm like, I'm into all sorts of watches. That's what I love about the hobby, but I also love hearing different opinions. My most polarizing watch I think I ever owned actually was a Parmigiani Tonda, also white gold, but one of the older versions where you had the full name logo. It was a very dress watch looking one. A lot of you were pretty open about going, I ain't feeling that watch. That one had a great hand winding experience. That's an automatic too, but it felt really good in the hand. It felt better than these do in the hand to wind it. So fascinating watch. However, again, kind of like the Breguet, it just wasn't getting I like to wear watches a lot. And so I always had this discussion on our Discord channel, which is linked below if you want to be on the Discord. But I'll throw that out here because maybe that would be a fun discussion topic. But the notion of size of collection. So I've always intellectually kind of struggled with this. In a lot of ways, why I often will call myself an enthusiast rather than a collector, because as the number of units gets higher and higher, I start to feel like I have to get rid of some because mathematically, I can't. The wearing count will fall unless I would wear watches different, multiple watches per day, and I do that on occasion, but very, very rarely. It's usually only for practical reasons, like I'm going to mow. Not today, I'm not, because it's February and it's raining outside. But if I was going to mow, I wouldn't, I'd take this off after like being done here and wear my G-Shock, except I'd probably just have the G-Shock on from the get-go and wear it all day, because why set two watches? The G-Shock automatically sets itself. But nonetheless, y'all get my point. So I always run into this where I'm kind of like, I want to consolidate down. And when, even though I lose money, like, I didn't lose too much on the steel Tonda versus what I paid for it. Took a bigger hit on I lost 1/12 of the value on the Tonda for the trade. I could have probably made money if I had sold it, but it takes forever to sell watches like that. And then the Breguet was probably closer to, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 25%. Which it wasn't too bad anyway, because it was used. I buy everything used pretty much. That's expensive. But my point is, I'm also able to go into things I would normally be like, holy crap, I will not buy that. But when I don't have to put out that much cash, it becomes easier to say, you know what, I can actually pull that off if I can get rid of enough watches. So it's one of those angles that I think is really, really interesting. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. I don't know if you all run into that or not. Obviously, I have plenty of watches that I like, gifts and stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, no, those will just stay in the collection. And if I don't wear them all the time, I don't feel bad about it. Like my vintage Spiro Agnew watch, or what watch is, because I have two. But like, it doesn't bother me that I don't wear those. They're not there for wearing. They're there for owning. But most of the watches I get, I want to wear them. Like that's the whole point. Like I want it to be usable. So I don't know. I know everyone comes at it from a different perspective, but Rob, thank you for being a club member. Good morning. Rob's probably, I don't know if you're into Pokemon, Rob, but you might be excited because totally unrelated to watches, though I'm sure there are Pokemon watches. Stern Pinball finally unveiled this week, their Pokemon pinball machine. And I got to admit, actually looks pretty fun. So anyway, exciting news in my second hobby. But Trudor, hello. Thank you for the compliment. Good morning, Collectibles. I still one of my favorite handles, Collectibles. I always want to add that underscore as the pause. Collectibles. Daunters, don't listen to the haters. Well, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I don't mind people telling me they don't like a watch I have. That's you got. It's like get thicker skin if that really bothers you, especially if you're doing content creation. But I just disagree with the stance. Koji says, next up for Dennis, a Rolex Daytona Leopard. Even I have lines. You all know who watched for a while. I struggle with avant-garde looking things. Like it's tough for me. I was kicking around some Maurice Grotzmans, but some of those dials, I just like the tremblage. I can go yes. Everything else, that power reserve at that price, just sort of bothers me. Collectibles does ask for a review when I get some time on it. Now I see Skylar is in, and Skylar has a question. And I will end up covering that in a moment. Let me jump to the one thing I also had while you guys think of things you want to talk about. And that is, here you go. All right. So I heard about this on what was it? It's one of the A Blog to Watch podcasts. It's not their weekly one. It's the one where Superlative, that's what it's called, Superlative. And they had on the guy from FHH, like the head dude, the CEO. I guess we call those CEOs. They had the CEO, I think it was the CEO of FHH. And he mentioned, and I think I read about this once upon a time, but they have a certification program, and it's not a certification program for watchmakers, though I believe they do those. It is actually a certification for theoretical watch knowledge, and they have these levels and stuff. I heard about it, and I was like, oh, you know what? This is a sort of nerdy thing that would be right up my alley. Like, who doesn't love a good certification proving that, hey, you know what? I do actually know some stuff. And it's made me wonder if all this time, learning about watches, because I really got into it around 2020, collecting wise and stuff. And learning more and doing the content creation and having people come and correct me when I would, especially early on in the channel, where like I didn't understand why we called things that were in the new catalog novelties. Like to me, that seemed like that's a throwaway thing. Not, and the next thing you know, it's a whole line of Speedmasters that stays in the collection forever. All that stuff, just sort of that journey of knowledge. Which part of the reason I do content creation is because I find it's sort of like an immersive way to try and learn stuff quickly. And part of the reason why I still do it in pinball is because that was a good way for me to kind of try and gather up knowledge in pinball, and trying to put something together like this, where you're kind of presenting, forces you to learn some stuff, or that's my theory at least. Anyway, so I thought this was really cool. And then the want part that I mentioned earlier is, so they do tests, and the tests are proctored, but they don't like use national proctor. Here in the US, there are places where you can go to take a variety of proctored exams, basically. But these are only available in certain cities to do the test, like LA, New York. And I was like, there's not one in the area. But I mean, I just thought this was such a keen idea. It wasn't too expensive, especially if you don't do the coursework. Like they give you self-study stuff. And that's how I've done tests in the past, is I don't need to take the coursework. I'll just give me the bibliography. I'll just read it. And then I like to try and do it that way. But all this stuff, like going into the technical knowledge of how, because again, it's not about being a watchmaker, but they ask you about the parts of the movement and stuff. And like, I used to look at those diagrams, especially in the pandemic, when I would take apart vintage watches I would get broken off of eBay and work on them. That wasn't to become a watchmaker. It was, I wanted to understand how it functioned. And the best way for me to do it is just to get my hands dirty with it. And so, but I wondered, did I learn good, or did I go down the wrong? Like, did I not learn the right stuff? So it sounded really cool. Unfortunately, not available I could pay for the stuff, but I'd have to, there are lines I don't cross, and flying to New York City to take a test is one of those lines I'm just not willing to cross. But anyway, I just thought it was a really cool idea. So very nerdy though, nonetheless, but interesting. I don't know if a lot of people will embrace that or not, but I think it was pretty cool. So, and Rob got in on a limited edition Pokemon. Well, congratulations. That one, it looks really cool. That's the one with the Master Ball on the plunger. I actually don't know Pokemon very well. I only ever played Pokemon Go, which everyone played. But the cartoon, which it's kind of themed around, when I was in college, in grad school, I lived off campus and I had cable internet. It was the first time I had non-dial-up internet. And so I had to have a basic cable package, but it was very basic to get the internet. And one of the few things that would just be on the TV that I'd normally watch for the news during the weekdays, on the weekend, they had Pokemon on. So I'd actually hear it in the background when I'd get up in the mornings on Saturday. So I kind of know the cartoon a little bit. That's about it. So I said we would get to Skylar's question. Good morning. And Skylar says, good morning. Good morning, Dennis. Wondering what your perspective and opinion is, if you have one, about the Accutron, excuse me, let me get my pronunciations right, and DNA. Right now, it's a grail for me this year, and I'm wondering if you have any thoughts. Well, let me get some Googling done because I don't know if I know Accutron, but I bet I'm thinking of the wrong thing versus what you're bringing up. So I wanted to go ahead, and you heard me typing in the background because my keyboard is very, very loud. And I wanted to see if I could, well, it went to the Accutron site and okay, well, it thought it went to the Accutron site and then it decided to be really weird. So let's go ahead. I think I got it going now. It just was a black screen. It's very, very strange. Okay. So I've not looked closely at them. So there's Space View. I don't know which one. Are they going to call it 2020 or is it is that a subclass of the 2020? This is where my ignorance really starts to shine through. So okay, so that's the DNA. So I'll take a look at that. Space View 2020. There we go. All right. That would be this one. I obviously have not looked into these watches before, so you're going to get my firsthand real opinion. All right. So I am not huge into skeletonization styling. This though looks, so this is the DNA. I do like the dome. It reminds me of a Resonance in some ways, which I always thought, I don't know if I'll ever own a Resonance, but I like looking at them. Does that make sense to people? Like, it's a watch I appreciate, but I'm not sure I would want to wear it. This kind of falls into that boat. However, because of the various kind of wheels, and you see the quartz or the copper coiling here, actually, in a lot of ways, I think looks better to me than the traditional mechanical skeletonized watches. What I do like is because of this doming that they've got going on the DNA, time telling is easy to do still because you basically have this magnified chapter ring. And that's one of the general problems I have with skeletonized watches usually is at various points, often entirely throughout the dial, it becomes hard to read the time. But this one looks like it's pretty easy to read the time. And I like the green one there that kind of popped up. But so this looks okay. Like it would never be for me. I see they're near on $4,000. Interesting, but it would not be for me. Now the Space View, I don't like as much. This 2020 Space View. And I think maybe some of these other ones, let me grab a different one, just make sure it's not the colorway. But I think my issue is, well, again, I think they've done an admirable job for the time telling by making it this sort of clear disc. There's sort of even though it's even more money, at least on the bracelet, there's the clear reminds me of plastic, which doesn't scream luxury to me. I like these with this shaded dome chapter ring. So my answer is I think the DNA is, my opinion is the DNA is significantly more visually appealing than the 2020. But all across, I also like kind of how they've done the dial. I see that the layouts are the same basically, but just like the finishing to this, I don't know if it's just because it's the vertical brushing and all of that, which I'm a big fan of vertical brushing. There's actually a Carl F. Bucherer model that a few of them actually where they do a vertical brushing. They have like a silver, a salmon, and all of that. And I've thought about I've actually kept my eye on several of them. The problem is the salmon's never got under $1,000, and that was what I was always watching for. But anyway, that vertical brushing I really like. I wish there was more of it, but obviously they've chosen to do the Accutron, show off the mechanics aspect of the watch. So, but anyway, long story short, DNA. Like if I was to pick between the two, I'd easily pick the DNA. I would never buy either of them. If I was gifted the DNA, I would wear it. If I was gifted the 2020, I probably would try to wear it, and then I wouldn't, most likely. So that's as good as I can get you there. I don't know if that was what you were looking for, but that is my stance. So Collectibles has a question. Excellent. What's the nicest, coolest watch you've seen in the wild, in person, in 2026? Those are though those are that's a very specific. That's a very so I have basically 6 weeks to work with. And you're in the wild. So you want to know what I've encountered in person, nicest, coolest watch. Um, you know, I can't say for sure that I think I've seen two people maybe with Seikos, and they were both interesting, but I couldn't. I was interesting in that I didn't know what models they were. One for sure I've seen on someone's wrist in 2026. I could tell it was quartz from how it was ticking, and it was a chronograph. It was a really shiny blue dial, uh, and we work at the same place. They're kind of their boss is reports to me, but I've never at work. I have never brought up watches with anybody except my boss, because I know he collects. He's really like he's got 2 or 3 Oruses. I think he's a big fan of Orus since he seems to have multiple of them, and I can only think of seeing Oruses on him. But he knows I collect. I think he knows I have this channel, in fact. And he collects too, but he doesn't go through nearly as many pieces as I do, and I don't think I'm all that aggressive. But I think anyone with a problem might say that I don't have a problem, guys. I'm really not buying too many watches. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. So I guess Seiko really, because honestly, almost all I encounter are Garmin's and Apple watches. That's what everyone's wearing. And I work in public health, so there's like a lot of people like there can be a strong sentiment to physical activity in that space, not to the level of personal trainers and stuff, but kind of from a chronic disease prevention lens. So a lot of people like to have those analytics and stuff, and so they're kind of into having all that charting that those things can do. And they just tend to. It's mostly Apple watches, quite bluntly. There is one other person who works with this person who has that Seiko I mentioned, the blue chronograph, has a mechanical Seiko, and he has multiple watches. And I actually saw him yesterday, but he was, I believe, wearing a Garmin that day. But sometimes he wears one, and one's mechanical. I could tell it's mechanical, and I assume it was like a gift or something because it was right after some holiday. But again, I didn't ask what it was. I think I could tell it was a Seiko, but that was about all I could tell. So unfortunately, I don't get out enough around people that are constantly wearing. Actually, you should ask me after next month. So next month is Texas Pinball Festival. I am planning to go. I have my room and everything arranged. I usually go to Texas Pinball Festival. I do see mechanical watches there. So like last year, I saw a Rolex Sub with date. I think I saw Breitling. I think I saw a couple tags, an Omega. Again, but you got a lot of people going through there, and a lot of the people that go to pinball shows collect pinball machines or buy new pinball machines, and people who buy new pinball machines usually have money. And so a lot of times it's not surprising that they will have a watch. Sometimes just one, but sometimes they'll, because of the mechanical overlap, the fascination with mechanical movements and the fascination with mechanical gizmos that make pinball machines work. I think that's why I ended up following. Like, I'm not into fashion. Like, I go to work in Docker slacks, and I don't know I don't know what brand my shoes are. Like, I'm not into that. I'm not into like luxury bags and well, I don't know why I'd be into a bag, but I don't really care about that stuff. I'm not into fashion. I think I just like watches because I always wore a watch. And then I learned there were mechanical watches, and I just thought that was cool. Just like learning how coils worked, and how boards control all these switches and stuff in pinball machines. I think it's a pretty natural overlap. Just like a lot of people into pinball are into cars. I've deliberately stayed out of getting into cars because that is a scary road, I think, to fall down. They suffer from the problem of pinball machines, and that they take up too much space, but even more so. And arguably, especially if you're into vintage, require even more maintenance. So a very, very dangerous path to go down. So I've successfully avoided getting into cars. Cloudkin, welcome to Livestream. Appreciate it. Asks Dennis, at this current stage, who are more hated in the watch community? Short-term flippers or longer-term investors? Flippers easily. I would say still to this day. You see less of it, but there is something, I think, that people, and I'm try I get some of my own, again, this is going to be part of my own bias kind of bleeding in. Um, but there's something sort of craven about flipping because it's right there with scalping, and that's, I think, the issue. And again, we're just, I because I can't help but talk about pinball. This happens in pinball too. Like Rob earlier mentioned that he got a limited edition ordered in successfully on Pokemon. Some of the people who are buying the LEs will do so deliberately in the hopes that they will be able to flip they won't even take possession necessarily of the game. They'll sell their spot for a few $1,000s. And I mean, usually, I mean, a few, like 1 or 2 thousand, but sometimes they go for more. This started happening with the Beetlejuice pinball machine that got revealed a few months ago. People started flipping spots, and it makes people mad because when they see that, they know that that could have gone, like, if it wasn't limited, if the production was faster, whatever the excuses. If that person hadn't swooped in and had no desire to actually possess the thing and just grabbed it to make money for no work, like, it strikes on multiple angles. You stole a spot from someone who really wanted it, so that alienates hobbyists because you're infecting their hobby. So there's that part. You didn't do anything to increase value, so it's like this, like this scoop up businesses and dismantle them. Like, wasn't that the plot behind Richard Gere's character in Pretty Woman, was that he basically just brought companies and destroyed, and then tore them apart for to make money. And it was like, who there's no who's proud of that style of work. It makes you money, but there's no honor in it. And then I think the third aspect that kind of mucks it up is that it's just it's so low effort. So it's not, at least like doing the company thing, like Richard Gere did, took effort. There's no effort to flip. It is, any idiot can do it. So it's not even like a skill set. And that's why when people would go around, you'd see that, Timepiece Gentlemen and all that also have really infected a lot of that view. Because, I mean, I just saw a post on Reddit today that showing a purported, because I not confirm it, a screenshot from state of Texas showing that Wolfen Watches, which was another YouTube watch slinging channel, had forfeiture of their business license for not paying tax. So again, there is these people going around in Lambos and Ducatis acting like selling stuff, and again, basically flipping it, that they were somehow worthy, deserving, and making tons and tons of money. And then you just find out it's shady as hell. And so that's all the reasons why short-term flippers are, I think, not just even by my own biases, but I think just widely, greatly disliked by the community. Longer-term investors, there will probably be some people that get mad about that. And you see that with Rolex in particular, with people who are really gathering them up. But I think with longer term investors, it's more a view that they're wrong. Like their investments aren't going to pan out. They're acting like they know things that they don't really know. And it's like meme stocks. You're throwing the dice. You're not actually savvy. You're just gathering up a bunch of stuff, hoping you play the odds. And again, that's not really a fair example in a lot of ways, because we do know that certain watches, certain watch brands, and certain watch models within brands absolutely retain and gain value versus others. Now, is it a smart investment versus an index fund? We don't know until we wait and see, sorts of stuff. But I think, though, that because they're at least curating, they're actually choosing what, like, there's thought behind it. There's a process. There's a degree of knowledge that's necessary to, without literally just randomly throwing cash at watches and gathering them all up and hoarding them. And I don't know any long-term people that do it like that. There are there's strategy behind it. So it is functionally just like investing when you're picking your own individual stocks. So at least it requires sophistication. Like, they're working for their money. They're working for their potential to earn money. There will be hobbyists that never like that, because hobbyists aren't, generally speaking, in the hobby to make money. I've heard some people say what is the definition of a hobby? A hobby is anything that you do that occupies your time and burns a bunch of your money. Like, some people won't count cheap hobbies as hobbies at all. Like, making bread is not a hobby to some people. To some, it has to be no. Like, all right, you're into ceramics. Did you buy your own kiln? Okay, you're a hobbyist now. Like you're throwing serious money in. Model train people just pouring money into things that won't get their, that they are not going to recover. Buying as many, like I've got like 19 watches. Like that's a hobby, because they add up. Even if I bought 19 Seikos, that's pretty significant money. It adds up. So anyway, but yeah, the long story short, too long didn't read. But I did open with that to save you time. The short-term flippers are absolutely more hated in the community for a whole host of reasons than long-term investors. Trudor, apropos seen in person, any views on the Mon? Am I saying Mon right? I hope so. In particular, the Manhattan 37 no date. Would like to see it in person. They just have a showroom in Stockholm. Would you spend more than $1,000 US? Now, I have looked at Mon before. I don't know if I think it's been the 37. But I want to go ahead and I'll load it up for us so we can take a look at it together, because that is half the fun. But it is a design that when I first saw it, it didn't really click with me, but as I've looked at it more, I actually have appreciated it a lot more. So here it is. You can see this is Manhattan 37. I'll just leave the animation up going on. So it's very interesting because a lot of people, I became aware of this brand probably when a lot of you who don't follow them did. And that was, there were a ton of comparisons when the Cubitus dropped to how this watch looks. And I don't know overall, I actually don't hate the Cubitus design. I would say I actually like a lot about the Cubitus if I didn't see the Nautilus inside of it. Like the intellectual, I've said that twice now. The intellectual laziness of Patek doing the Cubitus kind of low-key pisses me off, because it's so clearly just a derivative of the Nautilus. And it's like, we already have that. It's called the Aquanaut. But but like shape-wise, the Nautilus has never worked for me. The whole look, I don't like it. I don't like the look. I've always thought that the Royal Oak is a way better looking watch because it doesn't try and do that in that way. But anyway, a lot of people mention this. I think this looks way better than a Nautilus does. Again, it's not going to be as valuable as a Nautilus, but I really like the way this looks conceptually on other people. I don't know if the shape is really for me. Would I spend more than $1,000 on it? I don't know what the movement is. So that would be something I would kind of factor in. And how much above, see, I kind of like that. Salmon. I've been looking at salmon watches too, guys. I can't help it. Fish are fun. All right. So it's an SW200. I don't, how much over 1,000 would be the question. I don't love, all right. Oh, they're about 988. I would be okay with it. Let me put it that way. If you were really into this watch, I think this is fine. I would probably try and find it a little bit less, but not, I wouldn't feel bad. Like if I spent 988 on it, I wouldn't feel bad about it. No, I think it's perfectly reasonable. Over 1,000, maybe. I wouldn't go over 1,200, I guess, if you want a number tied to it. I wouldn't go over 1,200. But again, but they've regulated it pretty well. They're using top grade, so it's going to be reasonably accurate. I like the sizing. The case shape looks good. I see why, with the butterfly clasp, again, like this Parmigiani, usually there's not really good adjustments on those. So it really comes down to how small the links are to be able to get a good fit. But again, in the showroom, you might not, they're not going to let you swap the links down to absolutely know for sure that you got it right. So that's always going to be, I guess, a little bit of a gamble for you, but price wise, I think it's reasonable. I've never seen one in person though, so I can't. Again, I'm like you. I'm judging completely off of photos, and so I've never handled it. I can't talk about the build quality. I can tell you that because I, kind of Schadenfreude style read up on all of the hate that the Cubitus got when it came out. Because it was a big deal. I mean, it'd been like 20 years since Patek had launched a new line. There were a lot of people that said they had or had owned Mahan watches and liked them. So there does seem to be at least a community that has sort of rallied around it. So I say they have their fans. Let's put it that way. Underachieving says, sad, you'll never be an FHH watch expert, Dennis. You know what? It is sad. It is very sad. But maybe they did mention so I can't remember. It might have been an article I read. They did mention that they were looking to expand the opportunities to do the testing. So I might still get to nerd out on a pointless test for a certification that I will never use professionally, and then I'll show you all, and then you'll be sorry. Chordor says, another even worse case, Anordain Model 1 iron cream enamel dial, which looks great to me, but you can only book a build slot. Let me do the air quotes because I could tell how much that annoyed you. You can only book a build spot. Now I'm saying, I don't know why I said spot. It's because I'm trying to type the watch description, see if I can pull up the that model. Currently, the next available build slot is January through December 2030. Yeah, and I had never seen this one before. Here, let's make it large. Did that make it easier? It didn't make it any easier to see. Iron cream, very interesting. I like some of the others that I've seen of theirs, but okay, Anordain. Now that's a tough one, guys, because Anordain is, I mean, it's got its enthusiasts. I think Thomas with the Escapement Show, I think, if he ends up watching this, he can correct me. I thought he might be on the list. I know someone who's on a list. I can't remember who it is, who said that they're on the list for an Anordain, and they've been waiting quite a while. And they knew they would. Like, they're not behind schedule up for them or anything. It's just they knew it would be years out. That would be very tough. Like, that doesn't work for me. So, I mean, I don't mind like waiting, yes, but because that's an interesting question, because I'd have to know I really, so I guess it would work for me if I knew I really wanted the watch and was totally cool with waiting. But a lot of people, when they go to the trouble of custom ordering, they want it. Like, go back to the Rolex Submariner No Date, like the one hype watch that I actively want and have wanted for a long time. But I don't want it so badly that I really care about, spending a few thousand more and just buying it gray. And I've been on that list for like 2.5 years for that thing. But, it's one of those where it's like, yeah, if it works out, great. If not, here's another kind of less invested example, but Oris. I've had an Oris before. I had a Pro Pilot X, but I've kind of wanted an Aquis, not a fancy Aquis, just one with an SW200 in it. But I don't want to pay over $1,000. So I have some things where I've been watching. In fact, Joma Shop got one just under $1,000. One of those recycled plastic dial ones, which I actually like. Just this last week, it fell down below $1,000 with one of their coupon codes. But given I just got the trade done for the Parmigiani, I'm kind of like, I'm not in the mood to spend more money on watches, even if it is $990 or whatever. So, you got to be into it. And a lot of people they love Anordain. The one thing that I kind of think is interesting, where Anordain has done an excellent job. I don't even know it's their fault. And fault's a weird way to say it. I don't even know if it was their brainchild, but there are a lot of people where it feels like they think the only way to get affordable enamel is Anordain. And that's not true. Enamel used to be extremely common. It is less common now, but it's not inherently like the super expensive process. But there is a fail rate to it, and it's easy for people to kind of understand conceptually, like the troubles with enamel. And so there's just a really good appreciation for it. And then, of course, a lot of the other enamel examples are really expensive. Like Breguet has some incredible enamel dials. They're very, very pricey. Even, secondhand, they become much more reasonable, but we're still talking well into luxury territory. Likewise, some of those grand enamel dials that Longa does and stuff. But I mean, I'm naming brands where you're not getting the watch under 5 figures, no matter what, sort of stuff. So Anordain, coming in, the pricing on these is incredibly approachable. Like, this is less than $3,000 to do. They're not selling it on the movement. I think I've had an SW210 hand wound, though. I liked how it felt. But yeah, it's just very, very, it's one of those micro brands where they found a great deal of success, and for whatever reason, they've not grown themselves up to catch up to the demand. Now, will they lose all of that if they continue to require you to wait that long to get a watch? That's a bigger, harder question. But they clearly don't have a problem now. So what they're doing is working. Trudor continues regarding that concept, saying worse than Rolex wish list, and you even have to pay 20% for being on the wish list without much chance of getting the money back if anything goes wrong. Would you take such a risk? I'd have to reread to know if that's exactly what you're saying. If what I'm thinking of from your comment is indeed accurate, and that is that even if they go under, I don't have a right to my money back. Well, chances are you would lose it in that case. Would I take on it at the price? Yeah, if I really wanted it, I would take the chance. Yeah, I've not found one where I would want to wait that long. Like I've seen some of like the really nice rich red dials that I think look really good in their enamel approach. But yeah, no, it's expensive, but it's not so expensive that I would be terribly freaked out about if they were brand new upstart, I wouldn't. But that they've been doing it for a while and people have been getting their watches, I'd be okay with it. What I would do is double check and make sure I'm not hearing that people's deadline that they were quoted is being missed. If people have been not getting their watch on time, I wouldn't. But again, that comes from my pinball experience, and we've seen that with manufacturers. They start falling behind on their releases. It's actually fairly common to fall behind in pinball. But if they're holding on to your money and they're an upstart, I've seen at least 4 companies fail. And people just lost all their money. And sometimes it was a deposit, and sometimes they had fully paid for the game. And we're talking well over $5,000 for all this stuff, sometimes over 10. So yeah, no. But in Anne Ordain's case, as long as they're keeping up from everything you've read, I would be okay with it. Yes, but just be sure that you really want it. You can try and sell it after the fact. I don't know if they go for a lot over what the order price is, though. Like, I don't recall seeing high, like it's not a bunch of investors going in and scooping these up. So getting out of it might not really hurt you, but I'm not sure that you would get more than you paid for it. So, I just say, just be really sure you really like it. For Doggy Family says, hi, Dennis. Your view on the Patek 5230p world time. Thinking about pulling the trigger, but do you see an alternative versus this? Thanks. I don't look at world timers too much. I actually do like the 5230p. I think it's well laid out. I'm not a huge fan of the hour hand that they have at the center of the dial. But it doesn't bug me. I don't know. It feels a little, I've always just found the shape of it to be a little odd, but I think that's just so it was easy to call attention to it, because it's basically the same length as the minute hand. So alternative, again, not really. Not most world times look, obviously you get them. They're very cluttered watches as a general rule. Omega's world time's okay. Like the one with the laser etched globe. I kind of like that one, but it feels very different than this one. This one I would be like, if I was looking at world times, this one would probably be on my short list of ideas. And especially, I'm assuming you like the other aspects. Like if you want a platinum watch and such, I don't really have another world time I can think of that I would suggest to you. That's going to be like in precious metal like that. That's going to be this legible. This is very easy to read. So yeah, I mean, if I was willing to entertain, I just grabbed one on Chrono 24, but if I was willing to entertain watches that are, going around so this looks like a watch that's generally trading between $50,000 and $65,000. So, I don't know if there's really a lot of competition. I can't think of anything from Vacheron that I would suggest to you. Obviously, AP is just going to have, if they've got anything, it's just going to look like a Royal Oak, so I wouldn't do that. Yeah, you're probably just, I'd say that looks like a smart pick. So I would say, yeah, it's, I don't know if I'll ever own a world timer. So it's very hard for me to feel like I can give you a very good opinion, because I really don't spend a lot of time with them. I remember looking at a lot at a Carl F. Brookerer had a world timer that they did in gold. It kind of looked good. The handset was even more alienating. I think they just did baton style and they were so stubby. It's like, and that was like a $15,000 watch. And I just couldn't mentally get to, I felt the design just compromised a little too much. But anyway, no, this is kind of the format. I could put them back up again. So this is kind of the format I think of when I think of world times. Is I think I've just seen the Patek ones enough that this kind of general dial layout configuration with guilloche in the center and all that. Yeah. What I like about it is it's clean. It's busy, but it's clean to read. It's very easy to read this watch. So yeah, I don't have a counter suggestion for you. I am not good enough to give you something better. Donter says, I almost bought the Bulgari Oceanographer GMT, but I don't like how the Bulova letters were connected. Tiny detail, but completely killed my bus. And that's and I have to look that up because I don't even know if I've ever looked at an oceanographer. But yeah, it's okay. Sorry, I'm laughing. I'll share the screen. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. That they got to have a closer up, right? This is more in Wound site, but yeah, I see what you mean. That is a was this the vintage one? Because this one's not got the, or did I scroll down too far? No, I didn't scroll down too far. I don't know. Some of these images, these Worn and Wound, I don't like these. There we go. That's a better photo. I see. Okay. These are not very good photos, incidentally. If Worn and Wound took these, they need to go back and take them again. I mean, shouldn't say that. I meant no offense to whoever did this, but this looks like, this doesn't even look like there was enough light. This looks grainy. This looks like me shooting video. Like, I don't know. But yeah, no, it's funny. Maybe you all follow the same rule of thumb as me. I don't know. We are all different. Every watch that I've ever had has some form of compromise in it, even my most expensive watches. What I am willing to compromise on goes down the more the money goes up. So, a bracelet not being a perfect fit. For a Seiko, it's like, but you can do a strap swap for like the Parmigianis or something like this, as much as it was. Like longer term, if the bracelet continues to irk me, would I get rid of the watch? It would be a good enough reason, absolutely. But I also don't expect everything to always be completely perfect because conditions always change. But we're talking kind of physical things. Like I can buy straps for a watch, or I can ask them about giving me a link and a half link or whatever they Parmigiani might do. There are steps you can also really take. Where like straps and stuff, a lot of times, with Orient and Seiko, I'll just go, okay, I have enough third-party ones that are really comfortable that as long as I got a color that I need, I'm like, I'll let that go as long as I like everything else. But yeah, there's like a logo thing. Logos, a lot of weird fonts, even on less expensive watches, that can start to irritate me. And you start looking at this where you've got this. I'm not even sharing the page. Sorry. This, and I'll show you the photo I was complaining about. And this was the one where I was questioning the quality of the lighting. It just looks super grainy to me. And I don't know why. And those aren't renders, so it's very confusing. But yeah, so you've got this. Then the Oceanographer's got its own font. You got maybe it's the same font, but it's italicized to say snorkel. Like, I'm okay. Sometimes like Zodiac, the Super Seawolf clashing fonts, I think work okay. But on some other stuff, I don't dig it. For me, though, one of the biggest things that will kill it, and it kind of gets back to when I was talking about the Patek 5230 earlier for the Four Doggies question, is handsets. Handsets will piss me off something fierce. I don't care what the price of the watch is. Like, I don't buy cathedral handsets, just like how I don't like Roman or Arabic hour markers cropped by subdials. It irritates me. There's so many, quite frankly, really handsome Breitling watches that are immediately rolled out because of that I can't. I love so much about the watch. I would have owned that Breitling Pistachio if they hadn't cropped those hour markers. But and I still look at that watch and sometimes I think, would I be okay with it? And then it's like, you know what? If the watch was 300, maybe I'd compromise. But it's over 3,000, so absolutely not. It's just one, it's just one of those things. Maybe I'll, but my tastes, change. There are things I didn't like. I didn't like the Royal Oak very much when I first got into collecting. I very much appreciate how it looks as a design now. There are plenty of ugly ones in that catalog, but it's one of those. I've not gotten to the point where I want one, but I like looking at it now. Whereas like the Nautilus, I've never come around on. The more complicated actually of the Nautilus, the better I like it. The more you break up that dial and make it busy, the more I actually appreciate it. But different people are, will have different reactions to it. So anyway, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, that is off-putting. Aussie, welcome to the live stream, by the way. I've been using a smartwatch and the Aura and the Genon ring. It all sucks and is pretty pointless. The GenCon ring is the best, has the best sleep tracking. I don't know if I would be able to sleep with the ring on. I don't know. I don't wear jewelry other than my watch, which does count as jewelry. Functional jewelry nonetheless, but let's be honest. But only watches. That's the only thing I wear. Don't do necklaces, don't do rings, don't do bracelets, don't do except on watches. That's it. I only wear one watch at a time. I've tried putting a watch on my right wrist. It feels real weird to me. Real weird. I'm sure I could adapt, but why bother? Yeah, I don't understand the purpose behind a lot of the analytics. I think I've maybe explained this before, but perhaps it was to someone in person. So I'll just share it real quick here. So I use my phone to track exercise. Like if I go for, let's say I want to go for a bike ride or a walk or whatever, I'll put it on like the little Google Fit tracker with my phone and it'll log the distance. It has my weight. So it can estimate like the caloric burn. That's all I really care about is how far did I go? And I only do that once if I care about that, because then I know how far it is. And how many calories does it estimate I burned, which I only do once, because if I do the same route, I know I burn the same calories. So for me, I've never really found a big need. If you were out doing a lot of different things, doing in different environments, like maybe if I was a kayaker and going to different bodies of water or something, like I could see more value. But again, the phone can do some estimation. I'm sure like the readers on the rings and the watches and stuff may do a better job. And obviously it can now monitor things like pulse and all the rest of it. But what would I do with that data? Oh, I got my pulse rate up over 140. Okay, but what am I going to, could I not tell that my heart rate was accelerated? I could, because I've kind of lived with it for a long time. So I don't really think most people know what to do with all that data, but having data, knowledge is power. And I think people just like having it. And so these tools make them feel empowered, even though it's not really changing much of anything about how they do their lives and such. But I don't know. Scotty, welcome to the live stream, Scotty. Or maybe you're excited about Pokemon Pinball now that it's finally officially revealed, but that's not what you're asking about. Said, hi, Dennis. Will you buy a Christopher Ward and will it be the collab? Notes kidding. Contact me for Beetlejuice price. Okay, yes. Thank you for bringing up the Beetlejuice. It was a really good tie-in to Spooky Pinball's Beetlejuice machine. Yeah, Christopher Ward. There are some Christopher Wards, I will say. Unfortunately, they're more of their older, cheaper, more homage style watches that I think are perfectly decent looking, but I have no compulsion to buy any of them. I need to look into, I know there's been a whole thing. I think Patrick with Pocket Watch Time has a video. I don't remember if it's on his Pocket Watch Time channel or his other time channel, but I saw the thumbnail. It was a real good thumbnail about people talking about like Bark and Jack and the Christopher Ward collab to make a Rolex sub or something. So I'll have to watch that, because it both completely doesn't surprise me, but also, if true, is the most pointless style of collaboration, obviously, to do something so generic. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those. I've seen some wonderful collabs, even Hodinkee, which I've kind of poked fun of for a variety of their things over the years. I still love that Zenith Chronomaster original Hodinkee edition. I think it looks really slick. I'm happy with my just boring regular Zenith Chronomaster original with the tricolors, but I got to admit, every time I see it, I do pause and I look and I go, you know what? They did a pretty good job on that collab. It's a really good looking collab. But I've not really looked at the new Christopher Ward one, quite frankly. I saw some links, but I've been so busy with work this week and dealing with some other stuff that I haven't read it. Which is part of the reason why it's not the topic of this live stream. Al says, back to the Mon discussion. If it helps any, I had a Mon Hudson 38 MK4, the diver style, several years ago, and the quality and fit were very impressive. I'd buy another Mon with confidence. Every piece of data, anecdotal or otherwise, I'm sure helps. Matthew, welcome. Matthew, I don't think I've welcomed you today. What is your, you see, I'm already pulling out the keyboard. What is your opinion of the Langenzona Grand Langamatic? Thank you for the reference number 309.031. I'm between that and the Vacheron Constantin 4500V black dial going the pre-owned route. Okay. I'm familiar with the 4500s, but I want to load up both of these so we can look at them together. So obviously the 4500 is the very, very popular. I'd say it's the one I see most people talk about in terms of overseas watches. And then the Grand Langamatic is, you said the 309.031. I believe that is still in production. Yes, or at least they still have it at on the website. And you've noted, thank you, that both are the same price point. So I think that would be around, I assume, probably mid $20,000 range, because I'm not familiar with the used Langamatic, but the overseas are often in that price range. Okay, so apologies because the images are going to be I hit Chrono 24 for a VC 4500V with the black dial. The overseas, I think, is a very attractive integrated bracelet watch. It is not my favorite. Well, obviously, it's not the world's favorite, but that's why, going for a non-hype, especially since it's not the blue dial, going for a non-hype piece. I've never handled one, is the thing. I've handled some Vacherons, but I've not handled the 4500V. I like the look overall, personally, and I'll do my, give me a chance to pop it off here and do it. But again, and I had the steel one before this, but I prefer the Parmigiani's Tonda PFs personally for integrated bracelet design. But obviously the Vacheron here is far more sporty. I would not describe this as you might call it an integrated bracelet sport watch, because that's what we call all integrated bracelet metal bracelet watches. But it's more an integrated bracelet dress watch, which would explain my thinking. But personally, I like the Chopex Antarctiques and the Parmigiani Tondas more than this. But I like this. I'd probably get an overseas over a Royal Oak. I definitely would over a Nautilus, because I think the Nautilus is ugly. And I think the thing is, every time I see the Vacheron overseas, I want the 222 instead. So I just like the 222s, more vintage cues. The Vacheron, you can see the DNA where the overseas is inspired by the 222 from the bezel and the bracelet approach and such. It is an attractive watch, so I will say that. But since you asked my opinion on that versus this, I'm too predictable. But this all day, I love everything about this. Big date. You've got the and obviously this is going to look like a nicer image because it's a render, but the black dial, I'm sure, looks as awesome though as it does here. I've seen other Longa black dials. They all look good. Simple watch, very Saxonia vibe in some ways. The small seconds though, cropping into double baton does not bother me. So I like that. Love the hands. I love the hands a lot. The hands on the Vacheron I like, but I actually love the hands on this. I love sharp hands. I like alpha hands. I like delta hands. Really sharp hands are nice. I actually like syringe hands quite a bit too. I don't know why. Maybe there's just an inherent desire to have someone get poked by a hand. No, surely not. And of course, you'll have a display case back with this and a beautiful micro rotor movement. So you're not going to have the I actually looked at a few of the Longa micro rotors, because as much as I appreciate German design and 3/4 plate and the finishing on Longa, it's a little more fun when you see a rotor that's interesting to look at like this. And you get a nice slim movement and all the rest of it. Of course, the beautiful German finishing. For me, it's not remotely close. I would, at the same price point, I would absolutely buy the Grand Langamatic. But of course, the big difference is this is going to be very versatile for you. Like, you're probably, I would guess, because it's going to be on a croc strap and it's a gold watch, you're not going to want to wear it on casual day stuff, or anytime you're working around, like doing activities. Let's put it that way. Whereas with this, again, setting aside how much you might baby your watches, especially if they're expensive, Like it's designed to basically, it's a gotta, right? It's go anywhere, do anything style watch. Like it's going to have the water resistance and all the rest of it. Like even these Parmigianis have 100 meters of water resistance on the Tondas. There's a robustness to the designs, even the dressier ones. And that's not going to be the case with the Longomatic. But for around mid 20,000 price point range, easily I would get a Longomatic. But I am, if nothing, predictable. So underachieving mentioned the Chopard world time. That may have been in regards to our discussion of, I typed word time because I don't know how to spell. Our discussion of the Patek. The sites are being, Google's kind of weird to me now because I click on things and then I have to click on other things. I think it says it's loading. All right. Watches world. It's undergoing maintenance. That is not, it doesn't even let me go back. I don't know what's going on. All right, let's try a different site. There we go. World of luxury. All these names, guys. All right. I like the handset better on the Chopard world time here. The Traveler one is the one I've pulled up, obviously. I don't like the city layout quite as much. It's very similar. But so my answer would be, I like it. It's still legible. I think the Patek dial overall looks better. And I'm a Chopard fan, but I like the handset better on the Chopard. But anyway, it's good looking too. And obviously this is a lot less, but this is not platinum. And I don't know if they were really, really wanting platinum or not. But let's see. Collectible says, if I'm getting a world timer, it has to have a map of the world on it, but that's just me. Well, then Omega has got your back. I do think that relief, that laser, ablated, that's the word they use, ablation. I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. So that laser ablation, yeah, it does look cool, and it's a pretty readable watch. It's actually one of my preferred. I actually like a lot of Omega designs. I just wish they weren't all so thick. But it's. Again, I don't think I would use it. I'm here in the Midwest. I'm not a world person. I'm not doing stuff with the world. Again, it looking cool is plenty of reason to ever own any style watch. But yeah, I haven't been able to get myself to the place where it's like I've never owned more than one GMT. My now almost 20-year-old ownership cycle with the Rolex Explorer 2 has only been my one GMT. I've looked at a few others because I like the designs, like Longines got a nice looking GMT watch and such, but I'm always like, I already got one GMT that I wear when I need to travel time zones. I don't think I need another one, but let's see. Von Kroll, welcome to the live stream, by the way, says, if the letters aren't connected, then it would be tricky to have the letters exactly aligned. Well, you could use a font. I hate to suggest yet another font, though. You could use a font where all the letters are equally spaced. There are fonts like that. I don't know which ones. Like, I don't think we want like Times New Roman on the dial, but maybe. And then Von Kroll also asked, so I'm actually preloading up it wants me to sign up. Question: observatory hands, engaging or okay? Enraging. I was like, engaging or okay? I was like, well, what about hate? Hate's a word too. Enraging or okay? Okay. Yeah, I've seen these on a few watches. I was gonna say De Bethune, I wanted to think has done some like that. And now I'm scrolling down and I'm seeing De Bethune watches that absolutely have done things like that. I'm okay with it. It's strange to me. I don't know. It kind of feels like something happened to a Breguet hand. But I'm okay with it, with what happened to the Breguet hand. I don't know about the it's weird. The Cathedral one, I've seen even more changed. It's something about it. Because like in the Mercedes format, like with Rolex, totally fine with it. Sometimes too, it's not that I dislike a handset. It's I dislike a handset on a particular type of watch. Now, that's not the case with Cathedral hands. I've seen some wonderful watches and I look and I go, I just don't love the Cathedral hands. I'm growing more accepting. I don't know if I'll ever be accepting enough to bother buying one because there are usually plenty of other options. But so baton style hands, or no, let me use pencil. So pencil hands work for me on a number of watches. Where they don't work is the Vacheron Patrimony. And it's unfortunate because those patrimonies are a great deal used for a dress watch. If you want a precious metal dress watch and you want it to be from a known brand, definitely check out the patrimony if you can get behind the pencil hands. I think they're so cheap because people can't, but pencil hands on other watches have been okay to me. But a watch that dressy, I don't know. If it had been something else, it'd be like, but likewise, if they threw baton hands on it, I don't think I'd like the baton hands on a patrimony. Baton hands look great on a chronograph, but um, like a sporty one, like my Zenith Chronomaster original has batons, if I'm remembering my watches correctly. So yeah, but observatory hand, no, actually, I think that's kind of cool. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's like the snowflake. Like some people hate the snowflake hand. I'm indifferent to it. I'm totally fine with a snowflake hand, as long I'm not on a chrono because I don't like it blocking the subdials. But on like time only, time plus date watches, yeah, I'm totally good with a snowflake hand. It's fine. I don't think I'm that particular on hands, but there are a few that irk me, and I do talk about that a lot. So I suppose that I perhaps uh overstate the how many. It may sound like I hate more of them than I really do, but that's just because I talk about the ones I dislike so much. Wristful, welcome, by the way. Appreciate you being here. Collectible says, I made a video on the Christopher Ward Bark and Jack watch, and the Mad Watch collector went berserk. Oh, maybe that's the one that's been referenced. I'll have to dig through this. I'm always interested in hearing various opinions on watches. And Al loved it. Al is like, no, he didn't say he loved it. He said he enjoyed it, but I inflated it to love because it's Valentine's Day. So I gotta kick it up a notch, right? Wristful says, totally agree, Dennis. The Parmigiani Fleurier has more style. Just some people though, and again, I know I've got the rose gold one on now, but they find the little marker. There are plenty to criticize. The little markers. Some people find it more effeminate than they would like with the guilloche and the simplicity of it, and they prefer something that feels more masculine to them. And the overseas, I would agree, has a more aggressive look. I think the bezel really helps a lot with that. So, there are all sorts of things that vary it. One of the things I have heard, but I can't comment on myself, is that the overseas bracelets are pretty nice. Again, I've never worn one sized to me, so I don't want to say that. I've heard good things about the bracelet, just like I hear pretty good things about, actually, I heard very good things about a lot of Royal Oak bracelets. Not so many good things about the Nautilus bracelet, but again, haven't really had one sized for me to try on to. And I think you really need to spend some time with bracelets. Honestly, over time, most bracelets start to kind of get a little irritating. But I've always favored bracelets because ever since I was in high school, I had watches with bracelets. So when it's not dress watches, bracelets. The thing is, and that's where I think a lot of us love that micro adjust started to become more popular. I assume the reason why Parmigiani doesn't do micro adjusts is that it probably affects the aesthetic of the bracelet that they were trying to achieve. And I love the bracelet, the link feel of the Parmigiani. I think it's very, very good. I like it more than Rolex even, but Rolex will let you more easily size. And so comfort, even my old 5-digit feels really good on wrist. Now, part of that was probably that I wore it for 20 years and you get used to things. I hate a cheap feeling bracelet though. I would rather just wear a cheap strap because cheap straps can feel really good, especially. So I love silicone straps. Like the default one that Swatch uses, I actually think that feels really good. So it doesn't have to be expensive. But one of the nice things about bands is a lot of times as my wrist swells and shrinks, I can bounce between two holes and I'll be okay. But Wristful says Mercedes hands piss him off on any brand. Well, it's clearly just the shape that bothers you, which, hey, I can see it. I know others that look at it and they kind of see the opposite, whereas like I see a cathedral hand and it just bothers me. It's like, to me, it's a deformed Mercedes hand. They'll see that and they're like, why did they round off a cathedral hand? Why would you do that? Why would you take its elegance away and make it industrial and boring? Like that's like a reaction people have because we all have different tastes. But okay, well, we actually went way longer than I thought we would. But thank you so much for all the questions. I like this format, so that's why I've been rotating it every other week. I'm not going to say I'm going to keep doing it every other week, but sometimes it feels good just to go through and talk about some watches. You guys had a lot of interesting ones I hadn't looked at before. I got to have some fun looking at the Mons, got to have some fun looking at those Accutrons. And I'm actually still thinking about that Accutron DNA because I was like, you know what? That is a pretty cool style to kind of get towards what for me reminded me more of what I would get out of resonance without being totally weird like resins. But anyway, I will plan to be back next. I'm thinking, yes, I am okay. I've got a trip coming up one of these weekends, so I will give you advance notice, but it's not next weekend. So I will plan to be back next weekend with another live stream topic. Until then, I hope you all have a really good weekend and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.